Assalamu alaikum all, and welcome to part 2 of the Real Love in Real Life question and answer session with student Minister Ava Muhammad. I pray and hope that everybody's as excited as I am for this presentation. And if you did not get the chance to see the last one, make sure that you check out her website, ministerava.com. So we're not going to belabor this. We would like to thank all of those who are joining us in the virtual space. And of course, we'd like to thank Sister Lashun, who will be doing the signing of the questions, as well as Sister Kim Muhammad, Sister Donna Muhammad, who will be assisting with filling the questions. But of course, I know many of you like and may appreciate our presence here, but you're really not here for us, and that's fine. So with that said, we're going to bring up Student Minister Ava. Let's bring her up with a virtual round of applause.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to ministerava.com on the Elevated Places radio. It is a pleasure to be with you once again for Real Love in Real Life. Tonight, I'm going to make a commitment to make the answers to your questions as brief as possible so that we can get more questions in. I do want to say this before we get started very quickly, and I'm going back to the book Real Love. I want to return to the opening definition I gave of real love so that we can be on the same page in terms of our understanding of what we're talking about on this program. Real love is the ultimate communication between two people who unite to form one being, even while each keeps his or her own unique identity and acceptance of self. In order to achieve this state, a couple must master communication in every sphere: sexual, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Such a relationship grows in power. The mutual attraction never fades because the two people constantly renew one another. At its deepest level, real love is the recognition of God in one another. It goes beyond the physical, beyond the ego, and it moves into the very essence of the other person, which is the Spirit of God. And so with that idea in mind, we're ready to move forward with real love in real life. And I can't thank you all enough for taking time to be with us this evening. And a special thanks to Brother Troy, Sister Donna, Sister Kim, and Sister Lashun for making this possible.
I just want to thank you all for joining us once again. Please make sure that you like and share, let everyone know that we're on, and to join us so that we can get your questions in. I know many of you who saw the promo are probably really excited about hearing the answers and responses to some of those questions. And inshallah, we will get through those. But we're also going to be looking for the questions that you are sending via the website, the Facebook, as well as YouTube. So please make sure you like, share, and we'll look forward to your questions. I am going to go through my list of magical questions, and I am going to choose this one. And this question is from my brother, but let's be clear, this was not me, but we're going to start with that one first. So, student Ms. Ava, why are sisters still reluctant to choose the option of working to contribute to something to the household to secure the best interests of the family until we figure out the best way forward? And just a little context of this question the brother was sharing, that he understands the responsibility of the brothers and that the men are the maintainers. But he said dealing with the current reality of with COVID and that many have lost their job, that should some other consideration be taken into consideration.
Yes, assalamu alaikum, and I thank the questioner for that submission, because right now all of our marriages are under severe trial because of external as well as internal circumstances. Well, I'll start with what the Holy Quran says, and Brother Troy alluded to the term, but in the Holy Quran, Allah states, men are the maintainers of women. He does not state it with conditions or exceptions on it. He states it as a state of being or condition. And there are a multitude of reasons for that. If we go back, as I spoke about in the last session, and as you know, we are taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and by his servant and national representative, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that male and female have very definitive roles designed to ensure not only the reproduction of human life, but the evolution of man, male and female, into God. The only true reality is Allah. So when we talk about the reality of the current condition, it's the current condition that will ultimately pass away. We don't want to draw conclusions or make assumptions, whether it is inside the relationship or inside the community. So when the question is asked, why are sisters, plural, still reluctant to choose the options of working to contribute something, there are a number of assumptions in that question that we want to be careful and move away from. Because where was this conclusion drawn from? That there's a reluctance among sisters to contribute to the household. See, the option, or so-called option, because is it really a time in which we have many choices? But working outside the home is one way to contribute, and it primarily consists of income. But more important to the Black man is his need to have comfort, to have consolation, to have someone who can not only support him in his needs emotionally, mentally, physically, and above all, spiritually. How do you place a dollar value on that? When you have a believing woman as a wife, this is priceless, because if you are getting your needs met in that marriage, then you will be able to create a way to increase the income to a level where it can support the family, whether it's creative ideas in business, whether two incomes are needed, maybe we have to have two jobs. But it is critical that we consider first and foremost what our spiritual needs are. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in giving us the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, has stated to us in self-improvement, the basis for community development, that the problem in our relationships is that we go to the secondary source for our needs and we bypass the primary source. The primary source is Allah. And when we meet our duty to Allah, then the onus is on Him to supply our needs. So let's just make sure in our self-assessments and in our assessment of our spouse that we are giving sufficient consideration to what our true needs are that the secondary things we need to do in order to meet the financial obligations required to support a family will automatically take place once we zero in on that primary source, which is Allah.
Thank you, Minister Ava. And once again, want to encourage our viewers to make sure that you're liking, sharing, and make sure that you allow everyone to know that this program is live and they have the opportunity in real time to ask Minister Ava questions about, and particularly male-female relationships. But all of us should have this book. And we're going to talk a little bit about this later on. I got my copy. I got more than one copy, but this is my old one. But you should all get the book. Of course, you can go to Minister Ava Muhammad for that. And with that said, I'm going to drop off, and we have my illustrious sister, student, Sister Donna Muhammad from Memphis, Tennessee, who's going to ask the next question.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm already enjoying this program. Thank you, Minister Ava. And the question that I'm going to go into now surround courtship, since that's the foundation and the basis on which we go. And the first question regarding courtship is, do we have to ask permission to go into courtship? And then the question was asked, especially if we ourselves are a laborer, a student minister or student captor, and a member of the executive council is what they wanted to know. That's question number one.
Oh, yes, ma'am. All right. You know, the Nation of Islam, this is on my mind because it was brought to me recently. Someone raised the question about us being a cult. We are not a cult. And one of the things we don't do is tell people who they should marry. The process of courtship that came from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the faith community's service to its members. The courtship process is designed to facilitate assisting us in making the best decision possible. Now, at all times, the restrictive laws must be observed in a courtship. If you are a registered Muslim, you are expected to comply with our restrictive laws. And of course, the courtship, in all honesty, is primarily for the protection of the female, the woman in the courtship. Because an open courtship, which is known to the faith community, which is supervised, protects her reputation, particularly if the courtship does not ultimately result in marriage. But no, you don't have to ask permission to go into courtship. However, you have to observe the restrictive and comply with the restrictive laws of Islam. And frankly, I would recommend that to all of us, no matter what our age, no matter whether we've been in a marriage before. We want to take advantage of what Allah has given us through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to maximize our chances at happiness and fulfillment. Thank you. It's an excellent question.
Thank you, Minister Ava. I just want to, for our audience that may not be registered citizens of the Nation of Islam, I just want to throw in a question and
Yes,
want to
sir.
address that. Can you talk real briefly about, well, what is this? What is courtship? What is that for those who may not know?
Yes, sir. Well, you know, the word court in courtship comes from the same meaning of court in the judicial system, where trials are conducted to resolve issues or questions between parties. It is a search for the truth. And so that's what a courtship is. It is when two people come together and desire to interact in contemplation of marriage. In the Nation of Islam, we discourage and we don't do what is called, quote, date. In other words, where we're constantly interacting and moving from one person to another just to, quote, go out and have a good time. At this stage of our development as a civilization, it is critical that we uphold respect for one another, because that view of one another is going to follow through into the marriage. And so you don't have to be a Muslim or a Christian or any type of religion. Whatever your background is, you know, Islam is a way of life. Islam is when we seek peace, when we seek to be submissive to the will of the Creator for us. And in order to protect the society, we don't want to have fornication, adultery, loose behavior, which we all know is a fact, results not only in arguments, hostility, suspicion, and mistrust, but has led on countless occasions to murder, not to mention the impact on the offspring of a sexual union between two people when it happens without thought or planning.
Thank you again, Minister Ava Muhammad. And I just want to encourage everybody, once again, we're looking for those questions. We got questions that are already on this list, but we want to make sure that we're getting to some of the questions of those who are watching and viewing live. And I have to say this, of course, we always are looking forward and love the opportunity to hear Student Minister Ava ask all of these questions that we've had in our head, but this show is focused on questions related to relationships. So all the other questions that you have in your head, not this time. You can check out her show on Thursday, which will provide, Allah willing, a little bit more information at the close of the show. But let's focus those questions on male and female relationships. And with that said, I'm bringing Sister Donna back up for another question.
Okay, so we're going to stick into the theme of courtship for one more question and then move on to another question. And this is a two-part question, which actually is a segue from what you just responded to, because the person asked the question, is there an age limit that allows one to avoid going through the courtship? For example, if they're in their 60s and 70s. And I think it's really, if I'm looking at the context of the question, is the nature of things such as a chaperone or other different things that are inherent in the courtship process. And then the other part of the question is it important to meet each other's family members during the courtship, their parents, their extended family, their children, their grandchildren, perhaps, depending on, you know, what type of relationship that they had?
There's no age limit. Again, it's up to you whether you avail yourself of this divinely guided process and methodology to assist you in making the right choice in a mate. However, there's no age limit. It doesn't matter. We can say, if we're in our 60s or 70s, oh, I've been there, I've done that, I've been married before, or I'm so mature that I don't want anyone intruding on my time with this person. Now, of course, the presence of chaperones is generally, this is a married couple who have been married sufficiently long enough to understand and appreciate the institution of marriage, but it's not meant to be intrusive. Again, I don't care how old you are, you want your reputation intact and you want it protected. And so again, I would still recommend the courtship process. Family is essential. When two people marry, their families are also marrying. It is a bond between the families of the respective couple members, respective partners. And so everyone who is close to, who cares deeply about the husband or wife, parents, children, cousins, family, friends, all are critical, and all should attend, if possible, to the extent possible, the ceremony, a simple ceremony that would be held for the marriage. It's important because you're declaring to the community. You're letting everyone know, even down to the practical reality of saying to the women, this man is taken. Saying to the men, this woman is taken. And so this is why we don't go in the shadows and do this and have to guess what type of relationship people have with one another.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is really good information, and I hope that everyone is enjoying this. And we're looking for those questions. I don't see any questions. I got to check my other spots to make sure I'm not missing anything, but I haven't seen any questions that are popping up from this live audience yet. But we're going to go ahead and continue to move forward with the ones that we do have. And with that said, the next question I have right here is, how can we forgive and atone when the other feels the other is at fault or blamed to be blamed? So how do you forgive and atone when it's your fault and not mine?
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said recently, and it was so beautiful and profound, he said, never approach a problem as though you are not part of the problem. I will say that again. Never approach a problem as though you are not a part of the problem. And you can feel free to quote me quoting him, because he said this in a laborers meeting. See, if one party feels the other one is solely to blame, this is a failure to engage in any form of self-examination, self-analysis, and self-correction, which all of us are in need of. Another thing Minister Farrakhan has said is, if you look for fault, you will find it, because everyone has faults. The way to forgiveness and atonement is on that individual. And if someone persists, if your spouse persists in holding a grudge, whether it seems justified or not, this is going to ultimately lead to a termination of the relationship. But it doesn't stop you from forgiving. In other words, if they did wrong, forgiveness, this is why we had a Day of Atonement and the 8 steps of atonement. You forgive and atone with the God. It's really Allah who you are seeking forgiveness and atonement with. It's Allah. It's not the other person. When you take your marriage vows and you make your statement of intention, it's Allah that you are making that statement of intention to. When you give your word and say, my word is bond and I will give my life before my word shall fail me, that's to Allah. And so if the spouse goes out and commits adultery, you don't go out and commit adultery as well. In a state of vindictiveness, you seek Allah's guidance and say, what do I do now? Because there's been a major breach in this contract between the two of us. I need you, Allah, to help me. And then Allah will show that other person to you in how they behave, how they act, whether or not they demonstrate any remorse, because it is a long uphill climb to recovery from such a major breach of the promise that is made in a marriage to commit adultery.
Okay. So we may have had some technical difficulties with Brother Troy, and we're going to continue because we know in this hour With all the institutions breaking down from the post office to everywhere else, the internet is experiencing the same. So we're going to continue on in our questions, and um, we're going to get into some really deep rooted feelings and within some of the issues that we're dealing with in our communities, and one which you discussed in the promo, which was for this show, which was how do we as women rise above emotion in regards to the domestic life of Allah's servants as it relates to our own husbands and marriages. And the sister further asked, do you think this aspect of those servants' lives subconsciously give our men license to do so? And why would Allah make us the sole object and desire of that man if we would later have to share him with somebody else? So you can feel some of the pain and other things inside that question.
Yes, ma'am. It's key to understand the domestic life. I heard the word Allah's servant, God's servant. And in the nation of Islam, here in North America, no one has been granted permission to take more than one wife outside of the servant of God in our midst. So right now, that's an academic question as far as being concerned. How do we cope with that? It takes a specially made man, and then it takes especially made woman and women to be part of the domestic life of a servant of God. God has his intention and purpose in doing that, because if you look at the sun and the 9 planets that rotate around it and are part of the solar system, those planets manifest the sun's different facets of its ability to give and sustain life. And so out of all of these 9 planets in our particular solar system, there are different life forms that contribute to the existence and the evolution of our universe. It is perfectly natural for all of us to desire to be the sole object of our husband's love and affection. And remember, in the very beginning, when it was the self-created God, it was one woman. He created one woman from himself. And the Holy Quran said, many came from those 2, not domestic lives. Islam responds to prevailing conditions. In a people, as it was at the time of the revelation of the Holy Quran to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the male population was decimated because of continuing wars. And there were many widows, there were many orphans who were in need of protection. And this is a problem that Allah provided a solution to through the permission of men of means. That's very important. Men of means to take wives, not girlfriends. And so when a man took on the responsibility of a second wife or more, each wife had to be provided on a level as though she were the only one. In other words, her own home, sustenance, financial support sufficient for her, and if there were children, for those children. And so here in North America, in white America, which is an adulterous society, a society where, yes, the Black male population has been fairly decimated by homicides, the killing of our men. However, at this stage of development, our men are not overall prepared to take on the emotional, spiritual, or financial responsibility of more than one wife. Satan has caused a role reversal between the Black man and the Black woman. He has a system where now Black women, for the most part, earn more income. And there has been a unraveling, as Minister Farrakhan taught on the unraveling of a great nation. At the root of that, across all races and demographics, there has been the destruction of the institution of marriage. And so you have a generation now of young people who don't even see the purpose of getting married, let alone do they have the level of commitment that's needed to stay in a marriage when the inevitable problems come up. Now, the question about, do some men feel that because the servant of God takes wives by Allah's order and permission, that they should be able to do the same? Yes, for the most part, that is true. Because a man has to be highly spiritual, developed, not to have feelings of jealousy and possibly envy for what he perceives the servant of God to have, because all that is apparent is not real. Sometimes things look desirable to you on the outside, but if you were called upon to make the commitment required of the one that's on the inside of that, perhaps that would lessen your desire.
All praises are due to Allah. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know that I'm enjoying this, and if you're not enjoying this, I don't know. You must be asleep. You can't hear, and even if you can't hear, you should be able to check out.
Appears we're having some technical difficulty.
Excited. I want to encourage you all to make a donation to support. If you're enjoying this program and you look forward to more programming like this, go ahead and make a donation at PayPal at paypal.me/Minister Ava. Or if you use PayPal regularly, you can just go to Minister Ava and make a donation. I want to jump briefly to one of the questions that I saw that is actually from one of our viewers, and that is, okay. So I'm going to ask Sister Donna to reach out to Minister Ava because she just dropped off, and inshallah we can get her back on. But I'm going to fill time while we're doing that. So with that said, I want to go ahead and encourage you once again to support this program and further programs. And if you notice, it says Elevated Places Network, and there she is right there to save the day.
My apologies. And I will say this because this is real talk. Brother Choi and I and the team are working so that I can have the proper internet connection and location that I need to make sure that we minimize the interruptions.
Yes, ma'am. Praise
my apologies.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to one of the questions that I saw pop up on the internet, and that's not the one that I was looking for. The first one was, I'm sorry, there it is right there. No, that wasn't it either. I wanted to get the first one so I don't miss them. Okay. What should we do if we're already in a relationship with someone who is a good person, but who I may not feel is the right person for me?
Well, this is a discussion, a mental and emotional and spiritual discussion you're going to have with yourself first, because in the process of self-examination that we are being given in our course from Minister Louis Farrakhan, you have to speak with yourself and probe your deeper processes. You know, only 20% of our conscious mind is above the surface where we're aware of it. In other words, we're only aware of 20% of what we're thinking. 80% of what we think, we're unaware that we're thinking it. And we have to undergo a process where the conscious mind says, I'm going to pray, I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to with Allah's help, take this journey down into my deeper self and find out what is it that's moving me to feel like I feel. Because when you say it's a good person, that's number one. What does that mean? What does that mean to you when you say someone is a good person? Secondly, you have to ask yourself, what is right or not right? You can only answer that if you give yourself an honest list of what is your criterion. What are your prerequisites for what the right person is for you? And it's not an invalid position in the sense that there is no right or wrong person, but there are people that are not right for one another. That term chemistry is real, is significant. We've all met people in life that we had an instant attraction to. And I don't even mean just now male, female. I mean the friends that we have. We've had teachers. I like this teacher. I don't like that one. I don't know what it is. I just don't like him. I don't know what it is. I just don't like her. There is such a thing as chemistry not matching. And this is why we have to be so careful about how deep we get into a relationship before we ask ourselves those questions and before we have an honest dialogue with the other person. You know, you have to have a list of things that are what you call deal breakers. What's number one for you in your life that your permanent mate has to have in order for you to say, I'm going to go with this? Because we're not made to jump in and out of relationships like we're in the produce section of the supermarket and we pick up an avocado and we feel it. Oh, that's too hard. That's not ripe, and put it down and pick up another one. This is not the produce section of the supermarket. We have to do what we can. And this is why in the book, Real Love, I have a chapter called The Art of Being Alone. Everyone is alone at some point in their life. And during that time, you have the special opportunity to develop a very deep, wonderful, flowing relationship with Allah, God, where you talk to him and he always answers you. Always. Never say I didn't get an answer. You may not have gotten the answer you wanted, but you got an answer. And sometimes the answer comes directly from him into your mind. Sometimes it comes through other people. He will send people to you that will say things or show you things, and you know that that's the answer to the question you put forth to the God in your prayer. And so just do a very thorough self-evaluation so that you understand what you are saying. We have more than one self. And one of the goals in our spiritual development is to bring those selves into oneness with one another. There's only one I. When you say I, you say, well, I was telling myself something the other day. I told myself, don't do that. Who's the I? And who's the myself? They have to be brought together. These are the forces of nature within you. When Allah spoke to the angels and said, I am going to place a ruler in the earth, and one of them objected, he was speaking to the forces within himself. And one force within himself, which we know to be Satan, said, no, I'm not doing it. And he said, get thee out of here. He put him aside, but he did not destroy him. Why? Because he was on a continual path of working to perfection. We stand now at the end of Satan's rule, meaning Allah is standing at the point of complete destruction of the Satan of self. And so we have to be engaged in the same process, pulling together the opposition that we find within our own life. And I'm sorry I went so long, but got a little fired up.
That was powerful. That was definitely powerful. Okay, so as we continue on, and again, if you like what you're hearing, you can also support this continued ministry by going to paypal.me/Minister Ava. Because I mean, look at all this wisdom that we're getting. And she just flows like a spring with everything that she has taken in. She shares it so freely with us. So we welcome your contributions to this continued ministry. So going in, we have a sister that she referred, you have referred to this often, about how the male is the conscious and the female is the subconscious. And she said that you stated in your book that men can't really comprehend exactly what a woman does, and that, paraphrasing, that as women, we should really kind of stop complaining about it. And she wanted to know, what do you mean by that? Does that mean we can't complain, or because they just don't get us?
I apologize, Sister Donna. The last part of your question, the audio went down, and it's probably on my end.
Okay, well, she basically was talking about the male and female being conscious and subconscious, and that a male doesn't really comprehend what a woman does, and that really we should just kind of stop complaining. And she wanted to expound on it because, what we can't say nothing. We just
Yes, ma'am. Well, here's the thing now, that we have to start with this on a scientific level. When we talk about male and female, we're talking about the plus and the minus, the active and the inactive. And understand that male and female both came out of a single being, which is the self-created God. And so the reason I made this statement is because the conscious level is the active, moving, aware level. The subconscious is beneath the surface, and the subconscious is where all of our memories are stored. You notice how women tend to remember everything that ever happened in the relationship long after the husband has moved on to the next thing. That's just a small manifestation of conscious and subconscious. But it's not that one is better than the other. We are required to seek to make sure Allah is in our lives and that He is guiding us both in the conscious and subconscious realm. And so we should, though, as women, knowing that, relax a little more and not be so intense or develop so much anxiety when we think to ourselves, oh, my husband doesn't fully understand me. It's that as a man, he is occupied with the proactive, the moving through the universe, the sun moving on to its destination. And so that's what I meant by that we should be aware on both sides of how each of us operates genetically and in our God-given role. That'll give us a better understanding of each other and why we do the things we do.
Praise due to Allah. Thank you so much, Minister Ava. Time is just flying. I think we're going to leave all of the questions that you were mentioned in the promo. I think we got through all of our. I'll look for Sister Donna to make sure that I didn't forget any. But I'm going to jump to a question for one of our online viewers, And that question is, what is the process if one partner or choice of mate is not a registered citizen of the Nation of Islam?
Yes. Well, first of all, I would want to think that if I'm registered in the Nation of Islam and I have respect for and a desire to follow that courtship process, that's going to be the first test of a possible relationship. And that is the willingness of the partner to undergo the same process. See, in other words, the process is the same. The process of courtship is the same. The rules of courtship are not relaxed or adjusted because someone's not registered. Remember, all 40 to 60 million descendants of slaves in America are members of the Lost Foundation of Islam in the West. And so while if you are not registered, there are certain things you have not agreed or accepted to do, and that's understandable. But if I'm a man and you want to be my wife, then if this is difficult for you, the idea that you will be in a supervised relationship, supervised in the sense that when you go out for dinner, or if you want to go to the theater or anything of that nature, that you would be accompanied by someone. If that's objectionable to that other person, that really should raise your antenna to some degree, because at that point, I should be willing to do what's reasonable in order to further the relationship. Because at that point, we're just simply dealing with attraction to one another. And so that process also serves to vet and filter out people that if something that I consider to be fairly simple as a member of the Nation of Islam, they don't, that right there portends of more serious problems as you go further.
Excellent. Okay, so because we are running out of time, we're just going to quickly jump into maybe 2 last questions. And then we have a nice little announcement at the end. Okay, so this question is from a sister. She wanted to know if she's been a homemaker, she's taking care of everything, she's been reliant, depending on her husband, she's letting him maintain everything. But how does she find personal fulfillment while the husband has been fulfilling his own career for many years? And, is she justified in feeling kind of resentful? And if so, how do you get over that? How do you deal with that?
Well, again, you first have to confer with yourself. Now, what is it exactly that you are experiencing right now? Let's go back to the beginning of the marriage, and I'm seeing the term many, which is a lot of years. What was going on during those years? Were you exclusively a homemaker by choice? Because remember, we're taught how to act at home and abroad. The home is a woman's base. It is not exclusively her place. So if there has been deprivation of the ability to do more, even though homemaking is divine and it's quite fulfilling, it's certainly not by any measure the only thing that women are born to do. And the question becomes, what discussions have taken place between you and your husband? What expressions came from the husband when the wife expressed a desire to do more than to be in the home? Because when I hear the word resentment, resentment is a multi-layered emotion that contains in it an element of bitterness. And so there's something here that I'm picking up where the wife it's not just that I was a homemaker, but I was prevented from doing more than that. And then when I say, well, he was off fulfilling his career, now I'm sensing that the wife is not included in any way in what is going on in the career of the husband. So there's going to need to be some serious discussion about what has gone on over these years. And beloved, if you've been, and it sounds like you've been holding back feelings that, and resentment tends to be that way. It's quiet, it's secret, and it's a feeling that's negative, and you don't believe you can do anything about it. Now is the time. It's never too late to fix a problem, but it begins with being honest. Oh, oh.
I guess we're having a few.
Am I
I'm
back?
having a few technical issues.
Okay. Am I still here?
So you're still here. I just wasn't
Okay.
apparently. So time is ticking really, really quickly. We are not going to be able to answer all of these questions, but that just gives us something to do, inshallah. And we'll, inshallah, maybe I can sneak in a few questions before the next show, or we just gonna have to. I know everybody's looking forward to the next show. I'm gonna bring up Sister Donna because I think she has a few announcements. But before that, I want to once again encourage you all. If you liked what you heard today, and you believe that it's beneficial, first and foremost, make sure that you share it with those who did not have an opportunity to hear. And the other thing is support Student Minister Ava and the Elevated Places Network. And so, yeah, we're working on this not just being something where we answer these types of questions, but that you have an opportunity to ask questions of individuals on different topics, to ask her questions about different things. And all of the programming will be programming that she's taken a look at and she thinks or she believes is worthy to be shared with the public. So with that said, I'm going to bring up Sister Donna, and then we'll have Student Minister Ava close out with some words.
Okay, this has been a phenomenal program, and we can't even begin to tell you how many questions are actually left from the previous show, as well as what you have begun to experience in the YouTube chat. Her words stimulate more questions, but I encourage us in the meantime to visit www.ministerava.com and purchase Real Love. Purchase A New Way of Life. Study the book. Apply the book. There's also another wonderful publication called Directing Your Will, the thoughts and words to get your life in order. So not only does she deliver these valuable jewels with us verbally on this platform, but she has written numerous books, has done numerous lectures, and there is another book coming soon that we'll announce. So the special announcement that we have before we close out is this. There is a limited number left of print versions of Real Love and New Way of Life. And so 10 minutes after this program closes, that will be available for a limited window of time today. And once those are sold, that's all of the print books available at this time. So I encourage you to quickly move over into the shop if you're watching this from the site. And if you're on the YouTube channel, hop on over to www.ministerava.com and give your donation to support this program. PayPal.me/ministerava. Assalamu alaikum.
And I just want to thank everyone who's watching this broadcast, and the kind messages that you all are sending to me are so encouraging, because I'm a human being like everyone else. And we were talking before the show, some of us feeling a little nervous about coming on, because there's nothing more powerful than the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad under Minister Louis Farrakhan. And these teachings are for all of our people. And we really need the restoration of the Black family, which means the restoration of the love between the Black man and the Black woman. So I thank each and every one of you, and the wonderful comments, the questions, the help, and the donations, and supporting the ebooks and the hard books, everything you're doing. And we're out of time. May Allah bless us with love and the light of understanding. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, and thank you all for your support. We look forward to seeing you next time in the virtual space. Once again, Elevated Places Network, real love, real life. Assalamu alaikum. Until next time.
Walaikum salam.